our friend Justin Stranad a little 5-minute break from training camp, and he's gracious enough to join us with his presence to break down UFC 305. What better card to do it for than the battle for Africa? Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis. We're going to break down the main card in Perth, Australia this Saturday night. Justin, how are we feeling about this card?
Bro, I said before on the pod, man, I always get excited when it's like a true high level fight, man. Two guys where you really, yeah, don't get me wrong. Some people might have their pick or their opinion on how Saturday night's gonna go, but no one really knows, and that's what makes the sport what it is, man. Super excited for this one. The card as a whole, I wouldn't say is the best card, but man, the main event is one of the biggest ones of the year. The return of challenger Adesanya taking on a guy in DDP that just still I don't think is getting the credit he deserves. But dude, I'm excited about this one. Really looking forward to breaking it down.
Yeah, so I guess we'll kind of speed through the main card here. I know that's all anyone cares about, but on this fight, again, not a terrible main card. I know we've seen some bangers lined up for these next couple months, so you can't really complain about it. Some somewhat interesting fights, but I think we're all just concerned about the main event. So we'll get right into it. The Leech, Li Jianliang, is that how we're going to say it? Versus Carlos Prates, coming in live from the Fighting Nerds, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I just saw this stat that they are 12-0. They're fighters in the UFC. I know they have Gene Silva, Cal Barajo, and he is on a little bit of a streak as well. He's fighting the Leech. A lot of guys really like this guy ever since the Hamzat Nate Diaz clusterfuck of a card a couple years ago. This whole storyline of Leech. The Leech didn't get to wear his suit, but who really cares, right? He's a bum. He hasn't been able to fight since. I'm just kidding. He's not actually a bum. But Justin, how do you see this fight going down?
I mean, anytime Li Jingliang fights the Leech, it's actually pretty entertaining fights. I mean, whether he's getting dominated by Shemaev or he's in just a war letting his hands go, it is entertaining. But like you said, dude, Nerds MMA out in Sao Paulo, they've been on a little bit of a run, dude. And Barajo's got his first main event coming up here, and I think it's the next fight night, right? He's got a main
Yeah.
event coming up. But yeah, dude, I'm going with Prates to get this one done via stoppage. I think the Leech is just a little too easily hit. I think the UFC is starting this card off, the main card with a little bang. I think Prates gets a finish here and gets the crowd rolling for the rest of the night. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Leech, obviously, he's got power in his hands, and he's going to make this a firefight. I'm counting up, again, obviously, my counting skills, never my strong suit. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not only an 8-fight win streak, but an 8-fight knockout streak, or excuse me, a 9-fight win streak, 8 knockouts in a row for this guy. Yeah, again, his record doesn't look too great, but I think there's high-level MMA out in Brazil. I think this guy, I agree, I could see it being a finish, or again, it could end up being a somewhat entertaining fight. Like I said, the Leech, he's getting up there in age. He hasn't fought. He had a very serious, I forgot to say this, a very serious neck injury. I know he was booked for a fight, and then he had to pull out because of that, but again, when you're dealing with MMA, when you're dealing with these UFC fighters, you do not want to see anything like neck, back. You really don't want to see that, right? So I don't like that he's been that inactive. I don't like that type of injury. And I think this kid, again, those Brazilian guys out in the Nerds, man, I thought that was a joke at first because some of them have like Barajo looks like a nerd. So
Yeah.
I was just saying like, oh, the Fighting Nerds, like you could come up with a better name, but that's actually the name of the camp. That's hilarious. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he's going to get it done, but we could just move right on.
Bam Bam Tuivasa takes on Jairzinho, Biggie Boy, Rozenstruik. I love how they put Ty on this card, being it's in Perth. He's obviously got the Australian background, and again, these are fights that are very fun for the fans. Like someone's getting slept here, probably round one. Very entertaining fight, and
I don't know if that's a guarantee. Go on, sorry.
okay, I think it is, dude. I think Ty will force the early exchanges, and I actually think Biggie Boy is going to be a little bit too fast for him, to be honest. Not that I think Biggie Boy is this like elite striker or anything, but I think he's just going to beat Tuivasa to the punch. and I think he's going to put Tuivasa away in the first round via stoppage for Biggie Boy. What's your take on this one?
I hate that we're agreeing. I love Tai Tuivasa, and he had a very, very fun run, right, for 5 minutes there a couple years back when he was knocking everyone out. Talk about a battle with these guys of two people who lose to every good heavyweight and beat every bad heavyweight. Like when you look at their careers, it's very similar. Biggie Boy, obviously, not on a 4-fight losing streak himself, like Tai Tuivasa is, but I've always liked Jairzinho. I think he had a lot of hype coming into the Francis fight, which is 4 years ago at this point, and then he's been pretty all over the place since that fight. He was marketed as this like technical kickboxer coming into the heavyweight division that you don't really see. You see all these fat blobs, so you thought he was going to be able to piece some people up. Again, he's beaten bad guys. He's lost to good guys. Doesn't get more simple than that. And Tai Tuivasa, the same thing. We saw him fight, or he was a fight away from the John Jones fight, which would have been maybe the funniest fight in UFC history. But it's been all downhill since he dropped Ciryl Gane back a couple years ago. He's on a 4-fight skid. Again, he's not losing to bums. Actually, he lost to Tybura in the first round. So
Hey,
again,
if he loses Saturday night, do you think he's cut? I
I
hope
don't
not.
know.
He's fun to
5 in
watch.
a row is bad. Like no matter who you are, that's why like it's one of the things about Tony's losing streak, as nuts as it is for many reasons, is that like the fact that he's just able to keep fighting. Like I don't see how do you get past 5 and you're just like not cut, like, and it's not like he's losing again. If you could say whatever, he lost to Gane, he lost to Volkov. If he comes out and he loses back to Tybura and Jairzinho, I don't know. They might be cutting ties with him. It would suck if he got cut because there are still some fun fights for him. But I agree with you. I got Jairzinho. Jairzinho fights can be super boring. So he is more technical than most heavyweights. He has good leg kicks. And so if Tuivasa is going to charge at him, then like he could get clipped. But if Tuivasa is a little more, weathered in his approach, it could be a very much a snooze fest. But we'll move on. The hometown kid, another hometown guy, Dan Hooker, fighting Mateusz Gamrot, maybe the second or third best wrestler in this division. The dictionary definition of a crotch sniffer. The guy's high level, but holy smokes. He's got good cardio, so they're just going to keep coming at you. But not a great matchup for the Hangman. Who you got in this one?
Dude, like you said, it's a bad matchup for Dan. Dude, I respect Gamrot's skill as a wrestler, but man, he's one of the most boring fighters to watch in this division. Obviously, I have to go lean the Gamrot side, but I mean, I would love to see Dan stuff a few takedowns and piece him up on the feet. But dude, it's kind of weird talking about Dan. I don't know what changed with him, dude. He's like not like he just went from this zero tattoo guy to just fully covered with all the. And again, I got tattoos myself. I'm not against any tattoos, but it's just very strange
Anti-tattoo.
that the guy's just covered like all this. I don't know what. I know dude, him versus Poirier, like we said, one of the greatest fights of all time. Like low key, literally one of the greatest fights of all time. And I think that, dude, that was such a like pivotal point in Dan Hooker's career. Like he was like, bro, he wins that fight, which he was close to. Like he was competing neck and neck with Poirier until the dog just kept rolling, and Poirier, who we've seen time and time again, makes him one of the legends of the sport that he is. But bro, that was a big turning point in Dan Hooker's career, man. And then we saw Chandler spark him, and he hasn't been able to really get on a run since then. But dude, I'd be hyped for the stunning upset of Hooker, but I'm gonna have to roll Gamrot via 30-27. Boring decision here.
Yeah,
What's your take?
dude, I mean, I always say this. That's like sleeper, one of my favorite fights of all time. Like, not even sleeper. I think, everyone knows how good of a fight that was. And then the post fight, I mean, he looked like he was like knocking on death's door, dude. That was scary. In a sport where people are like battering each other's brains, it's hard to have moments like that stick out, regardless of, serious knockouts or serious injury. You don't usually see a guy like that, but it does happen. Some people are too tough for their own good. Him and Dustin Poirier both took life-altering damage that night. And like you said, I don't know what's going on with the tattoos. I think it started He got 2 leg sleeves. I believe that was the first thing I saw. Dude, you see that thing he's got going on his chest? Like, he has a fully
Yeah.
tattooed body. I thought the first time I saw that on Twitter, I feel like I say this a lot, but I thought it was a joke. Like, I thought that someone edited it onto him. It doesn't look real. It looks like, the big tattoo when you spend like your VC points in UFC in any
Yeah.
video game. It looks like you just kind of planted it on him. So I didn't even
Yeah.
think it was. And then I saw like a different picture, and I was like, "Holy shit, Dan Hooker!" All respect to the guy; he's a warrior. Not probably as bad of a matchup as you could make in that division. He doesn't have great wrestling, and Gamrot, we've seen, not only is he high level in his takedowns, but he does a great job at kind of just holding you against the fence if need be, and just, like a Marab style of just continue. You could stuff it, but it's coming right back at you, man. So that's what we saw when he fought Jalen Turner. Like, Turner was having a ton of success on the feet. That was one of those fights that when it ended, it was close. You thought Gamrot won, but like Turner looked like the better fighter, right? So
Yeah.
I think there's room. Like, Hooker could have some success on the feet. How many of the takedowns will he be able to stuff? I don't know. And does the Hangman still have power to put someone away? I don't think so, but I mean, I just want to pick Dan Hooker, man. I'm going to pick Dan Hooker with his hometown crowd. I've been rooting for wins ever since the Dustin Poirier fight because that made me a fan for life. Unfortunately, in my fandom, I have not been able to see him win very many times. But I think the Hangman gets it turned around in front of his hometown fans. Moving on to the co-main event.
I just want to,
Astro
hey, a
Boy.
real quick thing. Just want to say one thing. Quick shout out to my boy back home, Gunner, a friend of mine, friend of my
Shout
brother's.
out to Hunter.
He's got into MMA, kickboxing a few years ago. Actually training down at Billy Q's place in Tampa, and he was
Love it.
sparring with Jalen Turner the other day, actually. So it's pretty
No
cool.
kidding.
Yeah.
How'd he look?
My brother was just telling me, he's like, Gunner just sparred with Jalen Turner today. I didn't ask him how it went. I'm not gonna say he probably didn't get the best of Mr. Turner on the feet. We know Mr. Turner's pretty slick striker, but
Sure.
I'll have to shoot him a text and ask him how it went.
Again, I can't confirm nor deny. My sources on the inside over at Billy Q's gym said that Turner knocked him down and then walked away without finishing the job, as he does to everyone. Shout out to Jalen Turner, all due respect, and Gunner, 2 dogs. Hopefully, we will see the footage get leaked at some point. Moving on to the co-main event, Astro Boy makes his return after a super close, like as close as it gets, title fight versus Pantoja. A lot of people think he won, and even the people who think he lost think he's, championship level, and was a couple dumb mistakes in that 5th round, some self-inflicted wounds away from winning that fight. So he makes his return against Kai Kara France. Again, another Aussie on the card. This is a great fight. Kai Kara France been pretty inactive as of late. His last fight, Amir Albazi, super controversial decision. I always say, I'm not going to call it a robbery, not only when it's a close fight, but when neither guy does a ton of damage. We're not going to call it a robbery. I thought Kara France probably won, but like he didn't, you never leave it to the judges. If, you're clipping the guy and the other guy's shooting for takedowns, that's a different thing, but that wasn't exactly what was happening. He had more success on the feet, but there wasn't enough damage. So again, everyone was complaining about that fight. I've been hearing that again in the build up to this fight. It's like, oh, Kara France he hasn't fought since the robbery against Albazi. Like, that wasn't a robbery, but he makes his return. He's a guy who's been in that title picture for a while. He fought Moreno for the interim championship in the middle of the quadrilogy with Figgy. How do you see this one going down? I think this is going to be a super interesting fight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be high paced from the jump. But dude, I think a guy like Erceg's got a little too much length, a little too much physical advantage in this one. But like I told you, dude, I don't want to count out Kai Kara if this fight just strictly stays on the feet, dude. He's a crisp striker, city kickboxing, as we know in the main event. If they do a great job when it comes to the stand-up side, I think Erceg needs to mix in the wrestling in this one to get a win. And I think he'll do that. I think coming off the loss in the championship bout to Pantoja, I think he learned a lot from that one. And I think if he's able to put it all together, I think we'll see Erceg work his way back to another title shot here in the near future. So I'm gonna take him to get this one done via decision against Kai Kara. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I would like to see him finish him. I think who Matt Schnell, that beautiful 1-2-3 combo that he knocked him out. That's kind of what got him the title shot, because you don't really see too many like moments like that with the little guys over at flyweight. I mean, I scored that fight for Pantoja. I thought it was going to be a super close fight, and I think, I mean, that's one of those fights where like you lose, but you don't really lose. Like on the scorecards, he lost, but you know he kind of blew up that night, right? And I think he's still ranked toward the bottom of the top 10, like 8 or 7, which makes no sense. This guy, he's like 1A, 1B with Pantoja. I think he beats just about anyone else, and that's why he's the favorite, and that's why I think he's going to win against Kai Kara-France. Again, Kai Kara-France is high level in his own right. Like I said, he's been in that title picture forever. He was beating Moreno. I think people forget. That was a good fight. He was beating Moreno on the feet. Moreno catches him with a hard liver shot, and that's what put him away. But, he was winning till he wasn't, right? So it doesn't matter. But yeah, man, I think Erceg is as good as it gets in that division, and I'm very, very excited for his eventual rematch with Pantoja. I really don't know who else is in that 25 title picture. Remember, a couple weeks ago, we thought that might have been for the number one contender, Makayev versus Cape. And at least one of those guys is no longer in the UFC. I don't really know. I mean, Cape, who knows with him, dude? So boring fight, and then the winner gets freaking fired. So again, I don't know who's going. If Erceg wins this fight, he'll get a rematch. Like,
you think they end up bringing Makayev back or no?
Dude, if I know Uncle Dana White, probably not. I think that's something I wanted to talk more about that, and maybe we can in a little, but like still such an odd situation. He's claiming that he wasn't talking to PFL. It seemed like the UFC, that was like their big point, was like, oh, this guy was negotiating with the PFL while still under contract. I believe he said that wasn't true. Actually, he just said he signed. I don't know who he signed with, but I don't know if you're seeing the memes. It's like, street beefs. It's like, just inked a deal, and it's like a picture of him like edited into the Street Beefs cage. So who knows? None of these other promotions have flyweights, so I guess he'll move up to 35. But that it is weird, and you kind of, again, I guess maybe he wasn't next in line for the shot anyway, but now he most certainly isn't. So I agree with you. I got Erceg, probably a decision. I hope he knocks him out, but yeah, I'm hoping for some fun striking exchanges, because I think these are the two of the best guys in that flyweight division.